Hello everyone, welcome to episode 1600. The Great Hold of Consciousness. Before a long journey, one always remembers their starting point. The Buddha says, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. When we wonder about the creatures that we are and where we are, and where the story of the world is held, we find it to be in consciousness. Consciousness is an incredible event because it is the most necessary event to even define the context of what is happening. And so in this episode, I would like to share this concept that the great hold of consciousness is that all human psychology, or the individual human being psychology, is simultaneously present simultaneously present, or is simultaneous with an meaningless ever-presence. All of these 8 billion human beings on this planet so far, their psychologies are simulated simultaneously in the presence of everything. That means as I am speaking to you, one side of the coin of consciousness is the human personality. The other side of the coin of consciousness is the dehumanized presence. Now in this world, there are many eyes, and eyes are designed to witness. But when eyes meet eyes, the witness meets the witness. And so a sort of evolution from mere inanimate object, an embodiment, a body, goes towards the recognition of a dynamic mind, a moving mind. This moving mind defines itself through infinite beginnings, only to see that there is an ending to infinity as well. As if the body became the mind, as the mind was noticed. The mind became the soul, as the mind was witnessed. Through the body. The soul will then move on into becoming nature's presence. And that is what consciousness is holding. We are here on one side of the coin of the presence of our attention feeling. We are the small and the big about to fade. As if, what is this meaningless show on a sphere in the middle of nowhere? The light in our eyes being the source of our visual meaning. Consciousness is holding the greatest secret, that whatever simulation of psychology is simultaneous with nature being. And so how many human beings on this planet of ours can truly look at this and bask in its unknown? How many human beings, their lives are contained and defined by what is known, when the unknown is everywhere? It's as if we are born into mystery. The mind has such a vision that it can stop and create time in an instant. Before the concept of time, it was as if time had stopped. And when we wear a watch, we have created time. There are manifestations of dimensions of being. We have just awakened to our doership as creatures. We are active users of the human experience, defined by it. It's as if there is a creature that is, let's say, two-dimensional, three-dimensional, fourth-dimensional, whatever I could say, 5, 6, 7, whatever. These dimensions of the being are states of its own access. As if when one is considering the two-dimensional, as if it's like a square looking in the mirror thinking it's just a square. Then this square realizes it is connected to the side of a cube. And when there's multiple cubes, there's multiple lives, there's greater dimensions. We are not just the embodiment of one moment in the space-time continuum. The space-time continuum is how we have contained the unknown to be known. So what will most likely happen on this planet is that from the great slumber of language, consciousness is going to be liberated from conditions. For the first time, there will be unconditional character. And so it's as if drops are merging into becoming a river. If one was to assume 200 years from now, there would be an inseparability of minds. We are on that path. Some things are inevitable. And just because they are inevitable, it does not mean they must be feared. The inseparability of minds is an oceanic state of being. It's as if a drop, river, ocean, and they are simultaneous. So they are all ocean from the beginning. That means both our minds, our bodies, they are Energy, they are how energy witnesses itself ultimately beyond personality. As the species finds means to tackle the objective loneliness of the body and to provide the freedom and liberty of an endless mind, and then to conclude that after one has seen the edge of their self, and they have seen the edge of all else in the realm, all that will be left is nature's resetting. The intelligence of the witnessing non-animal component is free from the beginning. Everything to space is equal. But to what's in the space, endless comparisons can arise. As if this world is just waiting for man to open his eyes and connect everything to everything, you know. It's like, why is the human being alive, you know? To just connect dots that it creates. There is a joy beyond linearized living. There is a joy beyond what you know. As the poet Rumi says, out beyond ideas of right doing and wrongdoing, there is a place. I will meet you there. And when the soul sits on that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Speech is not the end of the destiny of the attention that is functioning through this biological framework. We look at the word life form, and there is the life and there is the form, as if life is a force. And this force is animate, instantaneous animate potential or ability or expression is the dance of the realms of language in the minds of people, in the minds of creatures. We consider ourselves as an animal through the evolutionary lens, but we are behaving unlike any other animal in this realm. Merely due to the sophistication of the ability of language, as if a gift from the gods, as if Thor's hammer accidentally fell into man's mind, and semantics and syntax and just language began being a structure behind the eyes of one. And most people don't realize it. Your life is either a subjective story or it's an objective instant. And this is where the witness comes in. And throughout history, I am not obviously the first. There have been many pilots in this role. It's all a movement towards the resolution that this mind that is identifying with the temporary events as an accumulation of temporary events. That means it's not just the human biology is temporary, every experience of every moment is temporary as it moves on to the next. You see, in regards to outer realm, in regards to physical behavior, we can say an act is repeated. For example, let's say a person waves twice. It is true, but each wave in the force of the intelligence of the person that makes their hand move, everything that instantaneously is a change from how attention was from before is new. It's as if our minds are destined for the absolute. Our bodies, mirages in the desert of truth. What consciousness is holding like a sphere, as if imagine a sphere somehow finding an ability to look inside itself, to just be contained and limited to what's inside itself, to go beyond the sphere, a dimension of the person, of the moment, has to surpass the edges of how the context of the moment is, how the limits of the moment are defined. That means something more than the small moves the small towards the big. And it can neither be said to be small or completely or big in some sense. I don't know. I'm using simple language, but it's as if nothing is holding everything and everything is holding nothing, and Mr. Within is saying, I told you so. What consciousness holds is all our memories, the stories of our life that animate. It holds all energetic phenomena. It holds relationships to singularized embodiment. And it also holds an invisible presence. That invisible presence is the liberation from continuity. That means the only way to surpass this world is to become it, then let go of it to be the next. I noticed that when it comes to my biological existence, it is inevitable. Everybody will enter the dark. It's as if it's inescapable. We can't escape how something begins and then it ends. So the end is nothing to, in some sense, fear. It's like part of the program of nature. We open our eyes on a rock in the middle of, a rock in the middle of nowhere for a little while. We fill ourselves with hopes, dreams, ambitions, and just an endless, infinite potential, only to see that the light of the room that we're in will turn off. And either our eyes, which are the candle in the room, or in some sense the light of the room. That means there's two ways the light of consciousness, in the sense of a conditional physical phenomenology, can be taken away. In other words, our world gets destroyed or we get destroyed in the world. If we get in the destroyed, we prefer that compared to the world. That means it's as if when it comes to the individual, like imagine two types of worlds where in one storyline of this earth, a meteor hits earth. In another storyline, a meteor, for example, I don't know, like individuals pass away. So in some sense, two ways where consciousness can exit. One in the control of the human being to some degree, and the other not in the control. And because we're the small and the big, or in front of our eyes at least, behind our eyes, I'm suggesting that there is an absolutism at work. And this absolutism transcends language. And the word transcendence is in language, so all that it can be is an experience of freedom. Of freedom. When freedom is free from being free. When the world changed you before you knew it. In the hopelessness of inanimate materialism, unknown, rhythmic, animate intelligence is like a torch, it's like a lighthouse. It's as if when we're done being objects, we went towards being subjects. When we are done being subjects, we will be. That is the true advancement beyond the language threshold. It's not that we freed ourselves from the universe. We freed the universe from ourselves. Not by erasure, not by a noun or a verb. There are moments in this life where one will find a familiarity as unknown witness with just energetic phenomena. You know, there's this thing that in certain cultures and traditions they entertain the notion of reincarnation, and there are those very few who entertain the notion of future selves, for example. So there's this whole idea of past lives and future lives, you know. And there's this idea that there's only the present life. That means whatever time the person conceives, it's just the brain generating in a timeless state, in a timeless vacuum. Our stories are moving us to some degree. When it comes to the past, many people, when they think of their past, they think they were a person. They think they were a certain character, they were a certain ideology in the past. How many people have actually remembered their past and realized that their past was nothing to the something? You see, there is duality everywhere in this realm. Duality is the biggest suggestion, the biggest, I would say, proof of eternity. The proof of how can we know we are temporary? How can we know the limits without a consideration of the limitless? You see, nothing is eternity. There is eternally nothing here. But something is the true art of gods. And so because we are designed temporarily here, we are as if designed for not self-service, but collective self-service. There is something about having a mouth and ears that makes one feel they are designed to share with their world. They're designed to receive from their world. There's something about one's hands that in some sense, as if there's work to do here, you know? So more than the fear of what will happen, more than the fear of how it began, there should just be the joy of the effort of the lifetime. Wherever you are, whatever you are, the effort of eons into now, that is where we are. The story of the world, there is no such thing as normal in a vacuum. That means when we can't see the edge of the observable universe, it's like, what normal? You know? Liberated from language, the body heals and abides. The body is like a drop. All it needs to do is get itself to the river. That means it's as if the body is designed to notice we're minds. To notice, as if like a spotlight where electricity it's like electricity is the soul, the light is the mind, and the actual spotlight, the physical component is the body. So the drop needs to get to the river, and the river just needs to know it is already connected to the ocean. And you see patterns of this in all the, to some degree I would say, religions that saw sort of unity, ultimate unity at the end. Pretty much it's been all or nothing. So once the physical, let's say bewildered creature notices that it has a mind that has the willingness of discipline, the willingness of the implementation of conscious strategy, Once the river realizes it's connected to the ocean, it can instantly be in the ocean. That means a river is like this strange, uh, it's like a part of the ocean finding itself again. It's like the potential of the ocean. It's as if our body fell into our minds, and our minds are headed for our souls. And the soul, the ocean of true, of pure being. Human psychology does not apply. So the truth of our intelligence is beyond the human framework. It is beyond an activity that can be comprehended, because all that I can speak in some senses is either philosophically based on, is the communication painting a noun, or is the communication going somewhere being a verb? The mystery of the world and the sensitivity to the mind and the body, that's like the synchronization of the inner realms and the outer realms. These are words that I use in the sense that what you see in front of your eyes is an object, what you see behind your eyes is a subject. So objects and subjects, they cannot be synchronized by the mind only. That means as if the mind can synchronize the body, but the mind can't synchronize itself. This is why in a lot of, there was this new study done, this research, this modern notable psychologist was talking about it, where people who suffer, who have some sort of complex looping issue, it is a sort of experience, transformative experience, that in some sense their mind realigns. Now that transformative experience can't be of the mind, because it's as if the mind knows what it is, so it acts like God to itself. So in some sense there has to be an unknown agent, and that unknown agent, when I say there has to be, I'm saying for the transformative experience. What the whole study was pointing to was, for example, chemical alteration of the brain. I don't know what the term would be, ethnochemical. No. It's as if transformation of the whole world is required for the mind to realign. Now that can be done through serious action sometimes, but usually it requires some sort of shifting of the psyche, where whatever one is, one witnesses something happening more than that. Because how does the new find our eyes? That means if a human being couldn't forget, if a human being had 100% conscious memory of everything, that means how long would it take for us to be rational? How long would it take us to be logical if we were to calculate all the possibilities of relationships, if all our memories were accessible from the beginning? That means there is a reasoning that just follows what is instantaneously occurring in the moment. Then there's a reasoning that becomes an overlay, a subjective overlay over the actual objective event. Then there is a witnessing of that subjective overlay from a pure unknown instantaneous being, moment of being. It is so instantaneous that at some point it's as if The life, it's as if the force is changing, but life has never gone anywhere. And I'm not saying human life, I'm saying what is the substratum of the free will, what is behind the free will. Study how your attention is holding the world. You will then trust, experience, and then the world shows you how it's holding your attention. And that is where I have come now. I have to make a note. There was this very incredible idea, very metaphysical idea shared in this Japanese anime, believe it or not. And in this show called Evangelion, from the extremes of a normality where the creature is, where the human being is positioned in utter loneliness, confusion, and challenges and suffering, the other edge of being is noticed. That when one realizes everything that has happened in their conscious sphere, reality sphere, or before it or after it or beyond it or whatever, when one realizes everything is okay, it's as if there are no problems with energy. You know, it's as if people, you know, they could hate, you know, people, other people, they could love other people, you know, but you can't hate energy. You can't just say, I love energy, you know, it has nothing to engage with it. It's just this idea of a force that cannot be created or destroyed. So ultimately, an unchanging movement is changing all movement, or an unchanging instantaneity to the 2D. The 3D is incomprehensible, but to the 3D, the 2D is like times 6, if you were to think of the square cube analogy. You know, I was under the impression when I was young that there was so much to know that it's impossible to know with like the just the brain of the human being. Like it's not like terabytes of storage, you know. The brain of the human being is designed to receive a little and then express a little and then, you know, to function in accordance to the rhythms that won't destroy it, you know. And in life, various rhythms can find us. And so when the species doesn't fear the dark, we would have been eternal before we were born. Or we would have been enlightened before we were born. Not a conceptual being, but being before the concepts arrived. That is truth. Whatever happens in this realm, truth is being. For there is no other way it can exist in our minds. We must be the doors that we will enter tomorrow. Rise, mankind, rise. For the eyes of the universal sector, salute the smiles of Absolute. Till 2022. Rise, man.